Everyone, I am Rica, maybe Carba, and I'm here in front of you to share my knowledge about cardiovascular system. So, in this video, you will learn what is cardiovascular system, what is the function of cardiovascular system, and what it is consist of, and how does the blood flow in our body. So, please watch this video to learn or to gain something. And please bear with my explanation. So, thank you. Cardiovascular systems consist of the heart, the blood, and the blood vessels. The function of cardiovascular system includes: first, it is a means of transportation. It transports blood to almost all of the body tissues. The blood delivers essential nutrients and oxygen and removes waste and carbon dioxide to be processed or removed from the body. The next is the serve as protection. It protects the body through its white blood cells. So the white blood cells clean up cellular debris and fight pathogens that have entered the body. And the last one is the regulation. It is an instrumental in the body's ability to maintain homeostatic control of several internal conditions. So the blood vessels is the one that is responsible and help maintain a stable body temperature by controlling the blood flow to the surface of the skin. Let's move on to the heart. The heart is a muscular pumping organ that pumps the blood, and it is located in the thorax between the lungs. The bottom tip of the heart is known as the apex, and it is directed toward the left hip. The heart is about the size of your fist, and it is covered with the walls and linings of the pericardial activity that are a special membrane known as the pericardium. The pericardium is a type of serous membrane that produces serous fluid to lubricate the heart and prevent friction between the beating heart and its surrounding organs. It also holds the heart in position and maintain a hollow space for the heart to expand into when it is full. The pericardium has two layers. First is the visceral layer, which covers the outside of the heart, and the second one is the parietal layer, which forms a sac around the outside of the pericardial cavity. So let's move on to the heart walls. First is the epicardium. It is the outside layer, which is another name for the visceral layer of pericardium, and it is a thin layer of serous membrane that helps to lubricate and protect the outside of the heart. Next is the myocardium. It is the middle layer that contains the cardiac muscle tissue. It is the thickest layer that is responsible for pumping the blood. And lastly is the endocardium. It is a simple squamous endothelium layer that lines the inside of the heart. It is very smooth and it is responsible for keeping blood from sticking to the inside of the heart. So this is the anatomy of the heart. So let's begin in this side. So this is the brachiocephalic artery, the superior vena cava, the right pulmonary artery, the ascending aorta, the pulmonary trunk, the right pulmonary veins, the right atrium, the right coronary artery, the anterior cardiac vein, the right ventricle, the marginal artery, the small cardiac vein, and the inferior vena cava. So in this side, this is the left common carotid artery, the left subclavian artery, the aortic arc, the ligamentum arteriosum, the left pulmonary artery, the left pulmonary veins, the left atrium, the auricle, the circumflex artery, the left coronary artery, the left ventricle, the great cardiac vein, the anterior interventricular artery, and the apex. So that is the parts of the heart. The heart has 4 chambers: the right atrium, the right ventricle, the left atrium, and the left ventricle. So the atria serve as the receiving chambers for blood, so they are connected to the veins that carry blood to the heart. It is smaller, thinner, and have less muscular walls than the ventricles, while the ventricles serve as the discharging chambers, and it is connected to the arteries that carry blood away from the heart. It is larger, stronger pumping chambers that send blood out of the heart. So, as you can see, the chambers on the right side of the heart are smaller and have less myocardium in the heart wall compared to the left side of the heart. The right side of the heart maintains pulmonary circulation to the nearby lungs, while the left side of the heart pumps blood all the way to the extremities of the body in the systemic circulatory loop. So we have 2 circulatory loops. First is the pulmonary circulation. So this is the pulmonary circulation or the pulmonary circuit. It transports the oxygenated blood from the right side of the heart to the lungs, where the blood picks up oxygen and returns to the left side of the heart. The pumping chambers of the right of the heart that support the pulmonary circulation loop are the right atrium and the right ventricle. Well, the second loop is the systemic circulation or the systemic circuit loop. It carries highly oxygenated blood from the left side of the heart to all the tissues of the body. It removes waste from body tissues and returns the oxygenated blood to the right side of the heart. The pumping chambers of the heart that support the systemic circulation are the left atrium and the left ventricle. Picture shows how the blood flows. So the deoxygenated blood enters the heart through the 2 vena cava, which is the inferior and the superior vena cava, to the right atrium, and as the right atrium contracts, blood flows from the right atrium into the right ventricle through the open tricuspid valve. So when the right ventricle is full, the tricuspid valve shuts. This prevents blood from flowing backward into the atria. As the right ventricle contracts, the blood leaves the heart through the pulmonic valve into the pulmonary arteries and to the lungs, where the gas exchange occurs and the blood becomes oxygenated. So the oxygenated blood goes into the pulmonary veins to the left atrium, and as the left atrium contracts, blood flows from your left atrium to the left ventricle through the open mitral valve. When the ventricle is full, the mitral valve shuts. This prevents from flowing backward into the left atrium, and as the left ventricle contracts, blood leaves the heart through the aortic valve into the aorta and to the body. So that explains how our blood flow in our body. Let's move on to the blood vessels. Blood vessels are the components of the circulatory system that transport blood throughout the human body. These vessels transport blood cells, nutrients, and oxygen to the tissues of the body. They also take waste and carbon dioxide away from tissues. Blood vessels are needed to sustain life because all of the body's tissues rely on their functionality. So there are the major types of the blood vessels. First is the arteries. It is the blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. The arteries have thick elastic muscular walls. Then the veins, which a type of blood vessels that carry blood from the tissues of the body back to the heart. Veins have thin, non-elastic and less muscular walls. And lastly, the capillaries. It is the smallest and thinnest of the blood vessels in the body and also the most common. It connects to the arterioles on one end and venules on the other. Capillaries carry blood very close to the cells of the tissues of the body in order to exchange gases, nutrients, and waste products. The blood vessels anatomy. So there are three layers. First is the tonic anthema, in which it is in the endothelium, the tonic media, a smooth muscle, and it is controlled by the sympathetic nervous system, and the tonic externa, which is mostly fibrous connective tissue. Let's talk about the blood. The blood circulates through our body and delivers essential substances like oxygen and nutrients to the body cell. There are types of blood. The red blood cells, in which it is also known as the erythrocytes. It is generated from the bone marrow that carries oxygen to the tissues and has the lifespan of 120 days. The second one is the white blood cells, in which it is also known as the leukocytes that fight infections, and it make up a very small percentage of the total number of cells in the bloodstream. The white blood cells have major classes: the granular leukocytes and the agranular leukocytes. The granular leukocytes consist of the neutrophils, the eosinophils, and the basophils. The neutrophils contain digestive enzymes that neutralize bacteria that invade the body. The eosinophils is specialized for digesting viruses that have been bound to by antibodies in the blood. And the basophils, which release histamine to intensity allergic reactions and help protect the body from parasites. The second one classes of WBC, or the white blood cell, is the agranular leukocytes. It is consists of lymphocytes, which includes T cells and the natural killer cells that fight off viral infections, and the B cells that produce antibodies against infections by pathogens. And the monocytes, which develop into cells called macrophages that engulf and ingest pathogens, and the dead cells from wounds or infections. Macrophages is a type of the white blood cell that cleans the body of unwanted particles such as the bacteria and dead cells. Another type of blood is the platelets. It is smaller cells that help the blood to clot. It is also known as thrombocytes, in which platelets do not contain a nucleus and only survive in the body for up to a week before macrophages capture and digest them. And lastly is the plasma. It is a non-cellular or liquid portion of the blood that makes up about 55% of the blood's volume. It is a mixture of water, proteins, and dissolved substances. Around 90% of plasma is made of water. The proteins within plasma include antibodies and albumins. So antibodies are part of the immune system and bind to antigens on the surface of pathogens that infect the body, while the albumins help maintain the body's osmotic balance by providing an isotonic solution for the cells of the body. That was the end of my discussion about the cardiovascular system. So let's proceed to the urinary system, but I will just focus on the urine formation process. So watch and learn. Show you how the urine is formed. So there are three processes of urine formation. First is the filtration, which happens in the Bowman's capsule. Filtration is the transfer of soluble solutes such as water and waste from the blood into the glomerulus. So the blood goes or enters through the afferent arteriole, and it leaves through the afferent arteriole. So the substances are filtered in the glomerulus because of too much pressure. The substances are forced into the glomerulus, and so the filtration happens. The other substances goes into the proximal convoluted tubule, in which the reabsorption takes place. So the glucose is reabsorbed by the active transport and diffusion. And by the way, transport is the movement of ions and other atomic or molecular substances without the need of energy. Meanwhile, the active transport needed energy. So, the amino acid is also reabsorbed, and it is reabsorbed through the active transport, but the diffusion can play a role too. The salt is reabsorbed by active or diffusion, and the water is reabsorbed by the process of osmosis. So then other substance goes to the loop of Henle. But in the loop of Henle, water is the only one that is being reabsorbed, and it is through the osmosis. So this is the descending limb of the loop of Henle, and this is the ascending limb of the loop of Henle. So in descending limb, as what I said, water is reabsorbed through the osmosis. Then in the ascending, the salt or the sodium chloride is reabsorbed by the process of diffusion transport. Then as it goes up, the salt is being reabsorbed, and it is now through the active transport. So this is the distal convoluted tubule. In the distal convoluted tubule, the water is reabsorbed by the process of osmosis, and the salt is reabsorbed by diffusion. Then it goes to the collecting duct, in which the water is being reabsorbed by osmosis. So, in the proximal to the distal convoluted tubule, the process of reabsorption happens. So reabsorption is the movement of water and solutes back into circulation. Then the last process is the secretion. Secretion is the movement of solutes and water from circulation into the nephron tubule. So in the proximal convoluted tubule, the one that is being secreted is the creatinine drugs and the hydrogen ion. While in the distal convoluted tubule, the one that is being secreted is the hydrogen ion and the potassium ion. So the hydrogen ions and the potassium ions is a way of controlling the pH level. So here in the collecting duct, the urine is formed because it is made up of the sodium chloride or the salt, the water and the urea. So that is how the urine is formed in the nephron. It was the cardiovascular system and the urinary system. So I hope you have learned something. Again, I am Rica maybe Carba, and I just want to share to you about my knowledge, a simple knowledge about those systems. So thank you for watching.